Good evening and welcome to the budget hearing of the Orange Board of Finance. I'll call the meeting to order at 7:06. In accordance with Governor Lamont's Executive Order 7B regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting will be held remotely with no in-person attendance. This meeting will be broadcast live on OGAT. It's also broadcast live on Orange Public Access Television Channel 79, which is OGAT, and Frontier Channel 6063. The budget's been out for the past week, and as part of this, we accepted any questions or comments until 4 o'clock today per the Orange website and notification on OGAT. So with that, Jim, if you can connect, well, we're going to introduce everybody as part of the thing, but we might as well do it now. So with us in attendance this evening is Kevin Moffitt. Wave your hand, Kevin. James Leahy, PJ Shanley.
Hi, everybody.
John Cifarelli, Joe Nuzzo, Pat Romano, Deb Satonic, and I'm Kevin Houlihan. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Leahy.
How you were going to make a comment, Kevin, I believe, on public comment, how that's going to be handled.
I already did. So anything we did receive, we will talk about at the end of the meeting, but that there will be, we're not taking any comments during this meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Well, I put together some slides. I shared them. I got them done. And what I can do is go through them with everybody. It's a summary of the presentation, of the budget hearing, the proposal. And let me know if you can see that screen.
Yes, that's perfect.
Good.
Okay.
That's good.
All right. So you have it at home. You can do it either way, but it's similar and nothing should come as a big surprise. We have an overview. We have the bottom line up front, or what's called a bluff. We have some considerations, some key facts and process summary. And then we go through the overall budget, then Amity, town operations, OBOE, what the budget means to residents, a couple slides on economic development, and then the questions submitted. So that's the agenda for the meeting. Budget overview, I think it's you, Kevin.
Okay. Obviously, our first selectman, James Zioli, our director of finance and administration, John Cifarelli, who's on with us now, our assistant director of finance, Audrey Gear, our treasurer, Art Williams, the Orange Board of Education, Bill Kraut, chairman, and the Orange Board of Education Finance Committee, Superintendent Vince Scarpetti, the Amity Board of Education, John Belfonte, which Joe's a member, and Superintendent Jen Byers, all the town department heads, and this board who we've already introduced to all of you at home. Our budget development process, you've seen this before for the most part. We started on this. We established guidelines based on the economic conditions, revenue projections, affordability of taxpayers. Amity develops their budget. Orange develops their budget. The Orange Board of Education, our town department budgets are developed by the department heads, reviewed and adjusted by the first selectman and finance director. We review all three, meet regularly, and try to come up with what we did this evening with the total operating budget for the town. This year's budget is based on prioritization of needs, as in the past, affordability, and then the last part is the reality of our economic shutdown and its impacts. The budget before you this evening was approved by this board on a 6-0 vote. And then Jim, I will hand it back to you.
Okay, we've all seen this slide before, but for those who might be watching on OGAT or on YouTube, two responsibilities that we have. It's the same slide, but in case you're not familiar with it, the services, the needs, public safety, the health, schools, and, adapting to whatever's out there. And just know that town taxes, residential and commercial, and mill rate, almost 92% cover of most of our costs. We also have an approach, and we call it doing more with less, and we have seen it before, and that leads us to question most everything, but it really only means, the way we would run your household, how are we spending our money? Deb, you want to weigh in on the credit rating?
Yes, our AAA, thankfully AAA credit rating. You've seen these factors in the past, and without this, our borrowing costs would be much higher and would actually lead to a higher budget. And thankfully, we've maintained that and actually improved it over the years.
Okay. So the bottom line, so for those who are, if you want to, what does it all mean that we're going to say in the next half hour or so, here it is. We got 3 budget components on the upper left. In terms of revenue, we have good news. We have a 1.64% increase. There may be some adjustments to that percentage lately, but that's a solid increase in grand list growth. The spending we present to you tonight is a 2.21% increase. You can see the numbers there. And the impact to residents, I'll kid you not, I was hoping for 0, but it's a 0.5%. And we'll get into what that means in a little bit, but it's a 0.5% increase compared to what you paid last year. 0.46 is the actual number. Some considerations. And we've seen some of these in the past, but I'll just go around the circle here. Town services, obviously. We've had wage increases. Up until this pandemic, things are riding high, and sometimes as much as 3 and maybe even more percent in some cases, wage increases. Safety and security, obviously a big need. But then we have on the 4th one in the lower right, the pandemic shows up. And with that pandemic, number 5, the economic shutdown. And as a result of the economic shutdown, we have a significant impact in unemployment. So as we're presenting a budget here for you tonight, it's in light of these 6 and obviously other factors, but these are some of the main ones.
And Jim, going forward, the boards of ed, depending on how things play out in the coming months, is that number 2 wage increase line, because there were no freezes in this current budget. Perhaps there should have been. I think the timing was difficult, but going forward, that's going to be something to really keep an eye on, depending on, we hope for the best, but have to plan for, probably the worst.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Sorry for the interruption.
No, commentary in. Now, this slide we showed last week, but for those who haven't seen it, it really is trying to tell a story. And this is a little bit of understanding initial unemployment claims. And so you're a person out there and you got in a situation that you have to file for unemployment. And at some point in the process, you're going to get off unemployment. You're going to end unemployment. And maybe it lasts 26 weeks. Maybe it's only a couple weeks before you get back and your hairdressers are starting up or whatever it is. And maybe it's going to be 10, 12 weeks. Maybe it's more than 26 weeks. No one has the crystal ball on a situation that's never happened before. But what we ought to make sure everybody understands is that the data we're going to show you now is that these initial claims, while they are very closely tied to unemployment or rate of unemployment, it's just the claims. Obviously, it leads to that. But this is not only measuring people entering the process, and I just want to make that clear for the second time since last meeting. Now, speaking of this particular thing, trying to figure out which is the easiest place to put my pictures of everybody. Initial claims are application for unemployment. Number 1, they may or may not result in unemployment insurance benefits, getting unemployment, getting money. Through May 3rd, we could update it tomorrow when the data comes in, and I will. Over 1,100 people in Orange have submitted initial unemployment claims. And for the state, it's 296,000 for 10 weeks. So for a 2-month period, basically 10 weeks. you've had almost 300,000 people in Connecticut. So some questions and some of the data comes rolling in. So you have incomplete data after a certain point in time. But basically, I asked a couple questions. Again, the teams already saw it, but if you're on OGAT or whatever, we're going to show you some slides and we're going to kind of race through them. We've shown them before, but here's the deal. How does Orange compare with the state? And we had this at 7 weeks. We had it at 9. Now we have 10 weeks. We'll show you the charts that we have right at the moment. So here's after 7 weeks. And this is just a profile to kind of come to the conclusion you see at the bottom of the page. But reading the chart, you can see at the top, there's actual numbers, right? You can see numbers up there. Orange had 4, it had 22, it had whatever, right? So all across the top, and you can see the 772. Now that was after 7 weeks. After 9 weeks, as I already told you, was 1,101. So this was just trying to get a picture. Are we different in the state or not? And we weren't. As you can see, it's a bell curve. It looks very much the same. The Orange and the state have highly similar profiles. Now, if I could only get myself to move this chart. There we go. Okay, so what are we looking at here? Again, after 7 weeks, what I asked myself is, how does Orange compare to the state in terms of, and at that point in time, I did it as a percentage of population. So if you want to look at the first bullet on the right, it says overall across 167 towns, 5.7% of the population, total population, had applied for unemployment. All right, initial unemployment claims. Orange was 5.5%. You could see it right there in the graph. All right, I put down. And I did quartiles, so you can see ranges, you can see averages, and you can see there's a pretty good bell curve right there. Okay. Next thing we wanted to do is ask ourselves again, this when we went to 9 weeks, how much is it shifting? And as you could see in this chart that you had 7 weeks as of April 12th, 9 weeks as of April 26th, and you could see the dramatic rise once we had a shutdown, of course, and then you could see consistently it was rising up. And then here they're giving you the data after a certain period of time, not extraordinary, it was incomplete. So you can see that it was rising significantly over here. So, you know, if you picked a week, like this particular week, April 12th, from the 7 week point of view, it was only at 31, but then it went up to 74 from the 9 week point of view, because they got more in for that week that they hadn't processed yet, which happened to be 139% increase for that one particular week. That's how you read this chart. So what you were looking at was we were working the Orange Board of Finance. We were saying to ourselves, hey, how to get our handle around it, keep up the speed on it. Now, team, some of you may notice this, but I'll come back to it in a second. Now we have 10 weeks worth of data. The blue line is the, again, percentage of households now, not population now, households. Because I was asking myself, can we get the number of households? Yes, we can for Orange. And then that's the denominator. The numerator is what are the initial unemployment claims as you go through this period of time, how high does it get? So for example, if you want to read the chart, you can see that on May 3rd, including that week, 23.9% of the state households have someone in it on average have filed an initial unemployment claim. In Orange, it's 22.7. You can see that they have, after April 5th, the data is incomplete, which means any of these weeks after April 5th, it's probably higher than what you're seeing here, both for the state and for the town. Then I asked myself the question, can I do the same thing? Because we have Amity involved, and you do. And what you can see over here on the right-hand side, 22.7 is the percentage of the Orange households. And then you have like numbers or percentages for Bethany, a little bit lower, and Woodbridge, a little bit lower than that. But when you add it up, you see that over 20%, even in Amity, are having issues have a household on average, right, with an initial unemployment claim processed over these 10 weeks. So that's how come I have the kicker box down there for both Amity, Orange, Amity, and the state. More than 1 in 5 households have filed initial unemployment claims. It's a little bit different, team. than last time. The difference is smaller because before, if you recall, this is only directed to my Orange Board of Finance team, is it used to be higher because I inferred the number of households for the state, but I found online a better number for the number of households, and it was higher. So it turned out to be a lower percent. Okay, that's how if you remember a 26% number, that's why. All right. So anything to the right of this drop down line, it still has data coming. All right. All right. Key facts and process summary.
Jim, I just want to interject. I think another way to put that into.
Want to go back to the other chart, PJ?
Well, I mean, I think all we need to say is, to put it into perspective, is these are unemployment numbers that we haven't seen since the Great Depression. That's where we are right now. Hopefully we get there. Hopefully this is a temporary type of situation where once we could get a better handle on the healthcare component, the economy will be around. But strictly from an unemployment standpoint, that's where we stand right now.
Okay. Everybody good? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, PJ. Okay, I call this one key facts and process summary. Correct me if I'm wrong, team, but we've used 300,000 from the fund balance and put it into our revenues from the next year. We are forecasting, perhaps that would have been a better verb if I was writing it now. We're forecasting the use of 300,000 refund return from Amity into our revenue projection. We have assumed last year's revenue from the state. There is a major uncertainty in predicting revenue going forward, but this is the decision we made. And that is clearly shown an unprecedented shutdown and significant impacts of employment that we just showed you.
And Jim, to your point, and everyone, we've talked about this, and people who haven't watched us before, we don't know what the state's going to do. They have record low sales tax. Obviously, there's no business being conducted and everything else. So we don't know if ECS is going to be cut, because we've had the comments that we have a healthy fund balance. Why don't we use more? And in essence, we just don't know how much, because we don't know what the state's going to do. We don't know, the impact on our residents for collections and building permits and whatnot. Construction still seems to be going on Marshall Road and those projects, but we really don't know. And instead of playing the game of trying to guess that we're not going to get 800,000, we're going to get less from ECS and add another 8 from fund balance, we chose as a board not to do that. And so I just wanted to make that clear too for anybody watching. We are using more of our fund balance, more than likely, than the 300. We just don't know how much.
In the green box, I don't know if it shows up as green, but on mine, it's a soft green anyway.
That's green.
Okay. I tried to fairly present from what I know to have happened. And I will just read it and say these are the facts. In terms of Amity, their budget increase at the end of February, early part of March was 2.49%. In early April, there was a motion to raise it to 2.73%. That was voted down by the Amity Finance Committee. And then they eventually passed one in May, 2.49%. Of the town budget, the 3 major components, the count is second. We did our February review. We had our March review. Following the economic shutdown, we reduced the 2 times. We reduced the numbers by over 600,000 and 135,000, if I remember the numbers right, on 2 separate budget reductions in the town. The third and final item, the old Orange Board of Education had a 7% increase. That happened to include a 300,000 that was not included, which basically was revenue or reduced the cost, which was part of the process that brought it down to where it landed at 2.45% increase, which is in this budget right now. So to me, that's a fair representation of facts that happened on the 3 budget components, to put it on a simple slide. And that's one I created for us. Okay, overall budget summary, here it is. You can see the percentage, you can see the data, the adopted budget for fiscal year 1920, the proposed budget, which we have right here. You can see the total proposed budget in the bottom of that column, 73,755,580. You see the four major components, and you see this percentage budget change from the prior year. Overall, it's the 2.21. We're going to talk about each of them. To support that type of spending, you get some revenue from this, that, and the other thing, or you project it, and the rest, and the majority is from property taxes. Okay? Property taxes, the biggest thing, which we've known for a long time. Those who are new to Orange, property taxes is pretty much, well, and that's residential and commercial. All right. So let's talk about the Amity budget. 2.49%. You see it there. The Orange Board of Finance does not support the Amity 2.49% budget increase. In fact, we spent a good deal of time a couple of weeks ago in our last meeting. We reviewed in very significant detail our input to the Amity Board of Education back on April 27th. It was a 4-page document. There's a graphic there that shows that. So I'd like to focus that chart, and I'd like to make just a comment. While the town and the Orange Board of Education was taking significant budget reductions, the only action that was seen at Amity was an attempt to increase their budget to 2.73. By the facts of what happened, it's very clear that before the economic shutdown, they were at 2.49%, and now they passed a budget of 2.49%. Significantly different than the town and the OBOE. That input we talked about had 4 sections. One, we're only going to go into one, but it did have the need for proactive educational leadership. And this, we're going to put this on the website, John. We gave our perspective on the fiscal year 2021 budget. We talked about specifics, and we also, led by Pat Romano, a number of questions about the Amity current budget, which have yet to be answered. Look at the perspective on specifics. Our input said the following: it's not the job of the Orange Board of Finance to identify specific Amity budget reductions, but here's a short list of items that might raise the eyebrows of economic shutdown weary taxpayers. Adding staff, particularly senior administrative positions. Is this the right time for $1.5 million investment in new technology? By the way, the current fiscal 1920, the current year surplus, utilizing that and not returning the surplus to the taxpayers of the towns. And how are you utilizing that? You're utilizing that for items that would have been required to be in the budget, and thus would have raised the 2.49% budget. And they made it very clear: $300,000 on down payments on this technology, and over $100,000 on textbooks and visual aids. This was part of our input to Amity on April 27th. Again, final slide on the Amity one, final of a 2-slide build, I'll call it. What we have here on this slide, and again, all in the Amity Board of Finance have seen it, but for those who've never seen it, let me just give you the 15-second how you read it. You got the years down the bottom from 2006 all the way up to this year ago, where we have all the data. The blue is the budget increase, the amount of money. So for example, in that year 16, 17, they're asking for a $933,000 increase over the prior year. Now, can you imagine this? Can you imagine this? Jim Leahy walks in, anybody walks in and says, yeah, you can't have that 933,000, you should be 833 or something less. What do you think we've been hearing? Oh. You hear a lot of things. What we know is that in that budget year, their surplus was 1.793,500. Now let's think about that. It's almost, now you got that right? They needed an increase of 933. At the end of the year, they had a surplus almost double that. You know what that means? That means in that particular year, if someone had said 0 budget increase, so the blue line would have been 0, you still would have had over $800,000 in surplus. Imagine someone showing up and said, you guys can live on a 0% increase. What might you have heard? Now, that's 1 year. But this has been going on for 10 years. Except for 1 year, this little year here where the requested amount was almost the same as the surplus. That's the data. So when you have such a large surplus environment, when you look at 2.49%, their actual spending is far, far less. So their 2.49 is really way higher than that. It's the same thing going on this year as well.
Yeah, and Jim, to that point, without getting too much onto Amity, I think the latest was they were showing just over $500,000 surplus. But from that, they've already moved $495,000 into a capital fund, possibly. It's got to be voted on. And $400,000, as you noted on an earlier slide, for textbooks and technology to pay now. So with the shutdown, and I don't know what other savings they have, their budget this year's surplus is at least 1.4 million.
And rising.
Correct.
Because remember, what we learned, and they've advertised in their documentation, the difference between their projected surplus in May compared to at the end of the year, 1 month, sometimes as much as double.
Then you're going to stay here because I'm.
All right,
So it is what it is. So there's our thoughts on Amity. Town services budget. There's the 0.46. Whoa, that's a large amount. What's going on here? Let's take a peek. You take a peek at Amity. Let's take a peek at the town. Let's do that. That amount of money is $1,038,347 team. So let's take a look at that. Here's the breakdown. John, thank you for putting together such a nice chart. Very, very strong. You can see that 29.7 goes to Orange Education, 33.5 goes to Amity, and the rest goes to what we'll call the town. Okay. If you look at all the segments, what you can see is pretty clear. I don't know how you can read, if you can read the bottom, but I'll read them to you. They're definitely, general government, public safety, public works going across, culture, health and welfare, employee benefits starting to rise up down here, of course. But pretty much you can see board education, and education is the driving force of increases in the overall budget. Major league hat tip to John Cifarelli and Audrey Gear and all of the team in the town of Orange, all the department heads and everybody who work hard. All those categories on the left-hand side under the cylinder that says all town budget line items. I talked earlier about 2 reviews. Here's the first review. We had 77 targets. I got a list right here, all right, from our March meeting. How did they go about it? They looked at prior usage. They looked at current expenditures for this year, and they said, and they came up with 625,523 reductions. The second review came after that. We had some staff reductions, not increases in administrative staff, reductions and miscellaneous reductions totaling another 135,000, 5 items. In total, 760,783 in targeted cuts to the town budget. This all happened after we did our reviews in February.
And we made cuts in February.
Yeah, and we did cuts in February. And then after the economic shutdown, whoa, we have to do something here. Quite different from the other budget components. So we're still spending, over $1 million, 4%. Whoa, guess where it's going? This one here at the bottom, can you see it? Health and life insurance? Pension contributions, they're going up in the last year, 760,000 and 431,000, which totaled therefore 1,191,864. Okay. But if that's the case, and it is, that means the rest of the town budget was just ours too. The rest of the town budget had a decrease in total. So we have budget increases in salaries too. So you either do with less in terms of personnel, or you decrease in any way you can. That's a fact. Employee benefits are driving all of the town budget increase. Orange BOE budget, 2.45 we mentioned. Over $500,000 that's increased, right? 512,000. And we are likely to fund capital improvements totaling 158,723. That's on our agenda later, team, but it's likely that we'll
Next meeting, correct.
and there's the particular things, 6 items, whatever, hardware, curriculum software, smart board, that type of stuff. So we feel like we're doing right by the OBOE to support these other needs. And these would be capital investments. Okay. Having done that, what's this budget mean to you? Well, here's our standard line. Average home value, 355.5, 70%, 248,850. New mill rate, 32.74. Property tax at this rate, 8,147. And if you compared that to last year, $37 increase. It's kind of easy because I paid $7,000 last year. So 1% of $7,000 would be 70, 0.5% would be 35. So, I'm in the ballpark. It's a little under 0.5%, but rounding type of thing. So that's the impact. And again, it depends on the value of your home or in your business. That's the mill rate. But it should be less than 0.5%. Or it is going to be less than 0.5% by definition. I brought to bring you back to the bottom line up front, because you can see in the upper right, and I mentioned it earlier, now I'd just like to reinforce it, that the revenue increase of our grand list, 1.64% growth, is a great thing. I think we've done a great job in terms of developing economic base. But I'll have to tell you, if we don't have that grand list growth, we got problems. And the problems are because if you have 2.21% increase, you don't have that grand list growth, then this number in the lower right is not going to be less than 0.5%. So I just wanted to reinforce that one.
That, and Jim, it would either be in our worst period of time in our lifetimes, we would have a higher increase, or we'd be cutting a lot more from the town and that side of the budget to try to balance this thing. So we are extremely fortunate to have that size of an increase this year.
Anybody else? Okay. Couple quick slides on economic development then. I've done them in the past years. I've cut out the definitions of all the 6 steps in the process, but I wanted to reinforce those things that drive this benefit for our taxpayers and us. As you can see, there's 3 pages. The Homewood Suites is open. So over the years, here's April of how to read the chart. You can see the items on the left. You can see where they are. 2 years ago, it was in step 5. Last year, it was still in step 5, construction, whatever. Now, it's open now. And it's operating. So we're getting value is the relative value. It doesn't mean we get 18 million from them every year. It's just the economic value. Urban Air, it's open. As you can see, the U-Haul rental is now at stage 6. Home Depot Plaza with Planet Fitness moved in, etc. Not all of them have been, but we're not, we're not throwing them away. We keep them on the list. If eventually we could bring them up, but that's the deal. Okay. So the idea is over time, you need to move them into a completed project, and then we get some economic base, increase our grand list. Here's some more. By Indian River without seeing the construction, right? The VA outpatient is also being developed.
Yeah.
The commercial ink manufacturing, not a big one, but we'll take it all. The shipping hub is almost done up on the old Stu's property. Warehouse facility and the redevelopment project in the Firelight has 2 components now, so I made it a 3/6 in here. And, the liquor store is open, but the other one is the mixed use development is a 3. Finally, there's some stuff that may be bigger than these numbers, but these are ones that are on the drawing board right now. Again, these are interviews I did with subject matter experts back up through this year, I guess I'll say. Okay.
Do we know what's going into the Lowe's and Sam's spots?
No.
EJ, I don't know at all, honestly, but I did hear it might be light industrial, light manufacturing. Which would be wonderful, because then instead of just a giant building, we'd have, taxable, personal property inside of it.
Equipment, yeah. Yep.
Okay. Anything else? All right, so the final slide for the final time. This is a summary slide. We have a great grand list. We're supporting town operations, the Orange BOE and Amity, our share of Amity. The spending, 2.21, and the impact for this year is going to be 0.46. And that's what I have for you. Questions?
Thank you very much, Jim, for all your hard work.
All right, next thing up is questions submitted. I guess that's, I'll stop sharing then. I think it goes to someone else.
Well, you can leave that there or not, but we have 2. Everyone has we did eliminate a position from the tax office, and we have a 3-page document from the tax collector. I want her to know we don't take anything lightly, that we eliminated a few positions on the town side of this budget. And, she has, good reasons, but I think from everything we've talked about through this budget season, that if we had to do anything, it would be a part-timer for the heavy collection month or so, but that position is not restored in this budget. So that's one. Unless anybody has a difference of opinion with what we've talked about in the past. At this point, the next item was from a resident in Orange, and I'm going to read it because this gentleman did ask this to be part of our record, and we do have time before 8 o'clock. It is from a gentleman by the name of Stephen Whitaker. And I think this was forwarded to everyone today too. I, Stephen Whitaker, a resident of Orange at 597 Ridge Road, protest the decision to remove the voting rights of the citizens of Orange to agree or disagree on the budget for the year 2020-2021. This, in effect, taxation without representation based upon Executive Order 7B. There needs to be a vote by the citizens of Orange on the town budget. A delay of 60 to 90 days should be considered to allow the citizens of Orange to vote by absentee ballot under extraordinary circumstances on the budget. Alternatively, a vote under proper CDC distancing guidelines should be considered. Based on the historic voting patterns, this can be accomplished with the current locations just as easy as going to any one of the local businesses open on the post road and operating under the guidelines. The honest and hardworking efforts of the Board of Finance are accepted. Their views and votes are not questioned in this matter. And then he goes on to several budgetary specific issues for consideration. The basic assumptions of revenue tax stream plan for the 2021 year should be revisited. The Amity budget based on school reopening as planned incurs an overly large transportation and capital expenditure budget if the pandemic continues. Item C, town services versus the income stream expected for the new normal are possibly out of sync. How many businesses will claim extraordinary tax easements? How delayed will the tax payments be for the years versus the required services? Maintaining the mill rate with reduced town services and town expectations for the next 12 to 18 months is not a solution that the town taxpayer should endure if it can be avoided or at least delayed until the town vote can be processed. Taxation without representation based on the best intentions is not the best cure. Extraordinary times require extraordinary measures. And anybody could chime in on this. I do agree with Mr. Whitaker on, I wish we could have a vote. That's the Board of Selectmen passed a resolution last week giving us the authority, and that came from the governor's office. I think all of us, especially this year, would prefer to have a vote, especially on the Amity side. A delay of 60 to 90 days, unfortunately, Mr. Whitaker, we cannot do because we need to get the tax bills out in June for the first payment in July.
Kevin, we can't do it because we didn't make this decision.
Well, you're absolutely right, PJ.
This wasn't.
Very true.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No, not at all.
I think we need to make it clear. This isn't a process that we decided on, whether collectively the Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen, Selectman Zioli. We did not do this. This was brought down from the state level, and this is what we were told the process was going to be. So I agree with them too. We all would have preferred to have a vote.
Right.
The residents of the town of Orange should come and vote. And at the very least, I would have preferred to have seen a different procedure, something where maybe we present a budget to the Board of Selectmen and then they vote on it. But our opinions don't matter because we didn't make up the rule, and it's what it is.
And I will state, the revenue stream, we've talked about that. Should it be revisited? But thankfully, we're not some of our surrounding neighbors. We do have a healthy fund balance, so we don't know how healthy it'll be next year, but we can cover our bills, and we're blessed in that. I'm not sure where else I was going on here, but
Sorry, I'm turning you off. I apologize.
we would want a referendum if possible, but and oh, that's what I was thinking of. I probably made this comment to someone today or yesterday. I approve of the governor giving us the authority, although I'd rather go to a referendum. And I said this at our last meeting. I don't agree with his one slip up was the regional school district, because Amity Board of Education approving their own budget would be the same as letting, our department heads are fantastic and they work hard. But imagine if they could all approve their own budget, and that was what it was. That's what happened with Amity, and at least I think have worked very hard to come up with this budget and balance everything we can. But that's what basically did happen at the regional school district level is they approved their own. It would be the same as our department heads all approving their own budget, and there's no vote, and then here, this is what you're going to pay, and that would be ours are very good, so our town would probably be okay, but some of our surrounding towns would probably have 12% increases at a minimum.
I'd also like to say that we really worked very hard to make this process as transparent as we possibly could. I think we went out of our way to illustrate and discuss exactly what the decision-making was along the process since February. And I think the citizens of this town were certainly welcome to join in, to question, to make their feelings apparent during the process for the last 3.5 months. So I think that, again, it's not the best process, but the fact that we did the most transparent that we could under the circumstances, I think is a good thing.
I agree. Thank you, Pat. And two other things, if anybody doesn't have any other comments, I'd like to publicly thank Pat. I saw her picture online with her great work with the Lions. And
Thank
and I believe Mr. Shanley wanted to take a moment himself to address the.
I'm sure you've all heard, I'm not sure if all the viewers have heard, that the volunteer Fireman's Carnival has been canceled for this year due to Corona-related concerns. And I found out that people could still make donations. I'm not sure if people are aware of how much the volunteer fire department helps the town of Orange just in so many different ways, but financially, they take on a big burden. Well, they take off a big burden for the town of Orange. And anything we could do to help them would be greatly appreciated. People could donate to the Orange VFD PO Box 878. That's in Orange, Connecticut, 06477. They're also going to be opening up a PayPal account, which will be on their website, www.orangevfd.org. And they're going to be doing the raffle this year. And I'm sure we all buy raffle tickets. I'm sure a lot of viewers do as well. But this is going to be one of the years where if you could buy, maybe double what you normally do, it would certainly be appreciated. So I'm not sure, John, if we could put information out on the website, but anything that could be done to help the fire department, I'm sure would be greatly appreciated. I know I'm going to do whatever we can to help.
Hey, PJ. Thank you for that. I did not know until you just mentioned it that it had been already canceled. It's usually the first weekend of August, right? So that would have been probably July 31st and August 1st and August 2nd. I don't know how it works, but I always hear, not always, I hear about GoFundMe, right? And I hear it, people go a GoFundMe page and all of a sudden somebody's got $100,000. That's another way.
That'd be a great idea.
For me, I'm kind of tired of writing my name 20 times on $5 tickets for $100. I'd much rather go to a GoFundMe page, punch in my credit card, and God bless America. I mean, so that's an idea.
It's a good idea.
I think that good idea, bad idea. Somebody else decides. Eventually, everything degenerates into work at one point. And so somebody, if that seems like something that could help out, I agree with you. What I most is what a unifying, is that what's going to happen for the July 4th carnival that Rocco puts on so brilliantly every year? I wish we wouldn't do that for that carnival, because I believe, particularly, I think I sent out, oh gosh, I didn't think I did send it to you guys. I got a great thing from a friend of mine from college out in Nevada, a doctor sent him. And the essence of it, and I'll be brief, Kevin. The essence of it is you can get Corona 3 ways, but 2 of them you really can't, and 1 of them you really can. But the one you really can is going like to sporting events where there's a lot of energy and people are real close and all that. It's not so much the wearing of masks, according to this article. It's being in those high intensity environments. Restaurants are not a high intensity environment. The Orangetown Fair, not the fair, probably is, but the Orange July 4th one, that's pretty low key up there. So, somebody else makes those decisions, but I'm going to send out to you guys that documentation and to Jimmy Zioli, and God bless whatever comes of it. But I wish that July 4th one would not go away. And I'm sad to hear what a unifying thing that Orangetown Fair. It comes from all out of towns, but it's a central point for us.
The carnival is off. The Orange Fair, there's been no decision yet.
No
although-
decision.
What's
The
that?
agricultural fair.
Yeah, no decision on the fair yet.
No,
Oh,
but
that's September, right, Kevin?
correct. Durham
Okay.
and several of the other towns have canceled theirs. As far as I know, the Big E has not. So, there's still hope. And at 7:57, we have to reconvene at 8 o'clock on another agenda, another meeting.
Could I comment one thing, Kev, on the guys, and I appreciate this gentleman who submitted this.
Stephen Whitaker,
Stephen Whitaker, thank you. I'd like to talk about,
got a minute?
understood. One of the things in our questioning of Amity that we talked about was this slide right here. And I'd like to acknowledge Pat and PJ. We asked questions not only about next year's budget and whether or not, Mr. Whitaker, things are out of sync. We're worried about that, believe us. But we're asking questions about, hey, you've been down for 3 months. You already have your full budget from last year. Where's the savings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we feel we're asking these questions of those people that are in charge of this stuff, and we expect answers. So that's all I wanted to say for my 1 minute. I'll get off the sharing.
Okay. So now, 7:59, I would like to say thank you, and we will, usually when we adjourn the town meeting, there's not a formal adjournment. The budget presentation, we adjourn to the town meeting, and then from there we go to a budget referendum, but that's not going to happen, unfortunately. So this will conclude the budget presentation, and in a minute, we will reconvene on our second agenda item for this evening. And if I had seconds on my clock, I could tell when that would happen.
Well, I'll let you know when it flips on mine. I got 7:59 on my computer here.
So do I.
I'm eyeballing it. Let's see if our computers are exact same. They should be, right?
T-3, 2.
Oh, mine's
There
8.
it goes.
Am I? Good. PJ, you're on top of it. Mine got the,
Okay. 8 o'clock. Welcome to the Orange Board of Finance special meeting. It's Monday, May 18th. I call the meeting to order at 8 p.m. I guess for anybody who's just coming on, I will introduce everyone one more time. Kevin Moffett, PJ Shanley, James Leahy, Deb Satonic, John Cifarelli, Joe Nuzzo, Pat Romano, and I'm Kevin Woolley. And I do that, but that's how you guys show up on my screen. I don't know what this looks like to anybody else. Okay, item number 2.
You ever see the Brady Bunch?
2020, 2021 budget for any possible changes. Based on our last meeting and presentation and the comments from the public, is there any changes anyone would like to bring about? Okay, hearing none. Item number 3, consider an act on approving the budget for the fiscal year 2020-2021 as authorized by the Board of Selectmen in accordance with Executive Order 7I section 13. Is there a motion to approve the budget as presented?
So moved.
Motion by Pat, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Kevin. Any further discussion? All those in favor? What? John, you're on mute.
How about now?
Yeah, you're good.
Now you're good.
Okay, in that motion, it should give the dollar amount of the budget.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have known that.
If you
So,
just want to end at 73, 755, 306.
okay, Pat, is that your motion?
So, yep, that's my motion.
Okay.
What do you think it was
Thank you, John.
305, Pat?
Couldn't find the mute button.
Kevin, are we still good?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, unanimous. Thank you very much. Consider an act on setting the mill rate for the fiscal year 2020, 2021 as authorized by the Board of Selectmen in accordance with Executive Order Number 7I, Section 13. And before I ask for a motion, I will ask our esteemed Finance Director, who thankfully we have, to give us that exact mill rate before I follow that up.
Okay, hold on a second.
It's 3274, John.
32.74. $32.74, $32.74.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the mill rate of 32.74?
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Who
move.
said that?
Pat.
Pat made the
PJ.
motion again?
AJ, I think it was.
All right, PJ made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll
Pat seconds.
second it.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain, unanimous. Thank you.
John, what's this year's rate?
32.74.
Yeah, no, that's next year, this year.
32.59?
32.59.
Correct.
3259. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, item number 5, consider an act to allow the Orange Board of Education purchase the following items from the capital fund. A, copiers of $8,500. B, school security, $8,800. C, software smartboards, $25,250. D, hardware, teacher laptops, $26,180. E, hardware, student Chromebooks, $37,400. And F, curriculum software, STAR, $52,593 for a total capital expenditure of $158,723.
These are the same ones, Kevin, that we had in the presentation, so.
That's
Right.
correct.
Yep.
If people at home were watching that, it's the same thing. Yeah. Okay.
Did
Yeah, I'll
you make
make
a
a
motion?
motion if you're looking for one.
I am.
All right, there you go.
Is there a second?
I can
I'll
second it, Kevin. Me.
All right, second by Joe. We've been out Pat by a
Yeah,
millisecond.
Joe, wake up, Joe.
I know, come on, Pat, let someone else get involved, Pat, let's go here. She's on mute, you got it.
I want my name all over the
I
minute.
guess, yes.
We know.
Any further discussion on that item? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Oppose, abstain, unanimous. Thank you very much. And as strange as this is, being on Zoom, I can't thank everybody enough for your efforts this year. It's been surreal, to say the least. And I could go on, but you don't want to listen to me talk. So I will leave item number 6 to Mr. Shanley.
8:06, motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Kevin. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you all very much. Meeting adjourned at 8:06.
Thanks, everybody. Stay safe.